Good morning, Warwick.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, listeners.
Hello, listeners.
It's
Been,
been a
it's been
while
a
and
hot minute.
I've got a cracker. I have another listener joke. This one
Oh,
is
no.
actually,
I
yeah,
always worry about these.
you should not be worried. This is a good one. It's come from the daughter of one of our clients. I have this big support network for these mum jokes that I have. And again, I don't know whether I should be offended that people are sending me suggestions because that means mine are so bad, or I should feel supported because they want to help me out with providing some extra jokes. But anyway, I think this one you'll really like. It's right up your alley. Why doesn't Elton John like lettuce?
I'm an Elton John fan, and I don't know.
Because he's a rocket man.
No. Oh, dear listeners. Isn't it good to have us back, and especially Coxie's jokes? That was actually pretty good. I
That's
thought
good.
that was it was intellectual. Your delivery was on point despite the internet lag that is going to absolutely hose us this morning. But we're going to push through because that's what we do here at Tradies in Business. And we're coming back after a bit of a break. Apologies for that. I know. I think someone said to us recently, Coxie, in the past
Yesterday.
week or so, that
Mhm.
yes, they were upset or stressed or something because they went to listen to one of our latest episodes as a bit of a headspace check, and there was nothing new there for the
No,
past month or so, and they were
no,
very disappointed and upset with us. So if that's you, listeners, Coxie is very sorry.
I'm not sorry at all. Yeah. You could always come over and listen to me on Tradie Wi-Fi. No, you don't miss out there.
That is a good point. And let's give a shameless plug for Coxie's own podcast,
Mm-hmm.
Tradie Wife Life, where I don't get a look in, which is fair
I can
enough because
say.
I'm usually the one who takes over everything.
Well, no, I don't agree that you take over. Perhaps we get out of your way and let you do your thing. And
I
you have joined me on the podcast over there once. We had you over there. And
did.
we'll have you over
I did.
again. You'll do another cameo.
Did
So
you actually publish that episode? I couldn't find
yeah,
it. No, I'm only kidding.
the team said I had to.
All right, that's enough of our dribble. Welcome back, listeners. Great to be back in the chair in front of the microphone for me after a bit of a break. And we have a guest today. We have Tammy Voss. Now, I'm sure I've said that wrong, Tammy, but welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast.
Yeah, thank you. You actually got it right, so it's okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Okay. Just, I thought, oh, the one S. I'm sure there's a pronunciation thing there, but we're in Australia, so we just say it the way Aussies say it, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. And the one S gets
Okay.
everyone, but it's all good.
Bet it does.
So, Tammy, you are a tradie. You're a general manager, and well, I mean, I'm looking at you on the screen, and I've stalked you online, and you're clearly a woman.
Yeah.
So, no prizes for guessing, listeners. I guess where the conversation is likely to go today. But Tammy, you've got a bit of an interesting backstory to your journey, not just into the trades, but into a trade business and into your role as general manager and tradesperson. So rather than me make an absolute ham fist of this, well, any more than I already have, could you tell our listeners a bit about yourself and I suppose your journey to be sitting here as general manager of an electrical contracting business today?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the streamlined journey that a lot of people have into managing, and it wasn't, I guess, expected for me either. So I left school when I was 17 at the end of year 11. And I started my apprenticeship in the family business with the intent to get my license and then travel the world. But I'm still here. um, so unfortunately, in the fourth year of my apprenticeship, my dad fell ill and couldn't run the business anymore. And it was a really complicated time because I was living at home and I was taking messages from home to the guys at work about what we're doing day in, day out. And it got to the point where I had done that enough that I was just starting to plan everything anyway. So the transition was a long period of everyone being confident with me being a manager, and also me getting my A grade license in the interim. And then from there, we kind of just built on that. I started learning how to run the business, how to do the financing, building trust with clients, and then also building my own base and my own network within the business. So it was upholding my dad's legacy, but hopefully bringing some of my stuff to the table as well.
It's a huge journey. It must
Oh,
have
wow.
been really quite terrifying at times, So presumably you were 2021 and you're having the responsibility or the feelings of responsibility laid on your shoulders to be able to deliver the messaging, to do what's necessary, because of course there's the emotional complication of dad not being well and the upheaval for your family group that then extends through, of course, through to the company, presumably another tight unit. That's a lot of responsibility for somebody so young. How did you find that period of time?
I look back on it now, it's a bit of a blur. I definitely think that it was just like ducks swimming on water, like just looking calm overhead, but absolutely chaotic inside. Because I wanted to do everyone proud and I wanted to support the family and make sure that everyone was okay. And that was the most important thing, I think, which meant, yeah, I took on a lot of responsibility and I was probably out of my depth. And there was times where I was like, I cannot do this. But I got through it. I had support around me. The guys were really good here at work, and everyone was really receptive of me giving it a go. So I was very fortunate. Like, there was obviously a few that weren't, but majority of people were willing to step up and help me if I needed it. And the biggest thing I found was asking for the help when I felt out of depth.
That's a great point that we talk about quite frequently. Most of us don't know who to ask or where to go, though. And I think that's part of the problem with business, full stop, is we're not taught how to run a business. We're taught how to be fantastic tradespeople. And then we get to the stage of running a business, particularly as a tradie, where we've perfected this trade. Now we need to look at perfecting our business skills. Where on earth do you go to find all that out, Tammy?
Yeah, I think it was trying to get some stuff out of my dad. It wasn't the easiest, but really falling back on him when I really needed it. And it was talking to the other guys at work here about how things were done. And then I went and did some business, like day-to-day business courses. I signed up to like our business network, just did some online stuff. And a lot of it was just finding out through failure as well. Like, that didn't work. I won't do that again.
Yep.
So yeah, and it's just letting people know I'm struggling. It might take a little bit longer than it used to, but I'm going to get it done. It just might not be as efficient, or it might not be the way that you're expecting. So it's just, yeah, giving that bit of vulnerability to people and say, I'm a bit overwhelmed at the moment. Just give me the time and I will get it done.
Incredible that you had the confidence to be that vulnerable, particularly at your age. And I think one of the things I've certainly experienced is that real imposter syndrome. I'm not a tradie. I do have a construction business. And so coming into the trades and working in and around trades, I found myself really suffering with that imposter syndrome and working doubly as hard to try and prove myself, at least in the early days. So to have that vulnerability, to be able to put my hand up and say, actually, I'm struggling, or I don't know, or I don't understand. A lot of it I would just bluff my way through and ask lots of questions when I got home, which was ridiculous. If I had just put my hand up and done what you've done, Tammy, and said, look, I need some help here, I think that could have been so much smoother for me in the very beginning. So I can only imagine what the pressure must have felt like for you. Can you tell us a little bit about the support network that you had that you were able to draw on other than dad?
Yeah, so I had my grandparents. So they're pretty much my go-to for just like talking and no judgment. And then I had a really good group of girlfriends that I could just go and hang out with, and balancing the amount of business I'm talking about with also the things that I'm doing for joy was a big thing. Was like, I don't want to just be sitting here talking about business all the time. Like, bring some lightness into the situation, talk to my friends about what we're doing on the weekend and stuff. And then have the moments to vent, but then also take a step back and look at the bigger picture as well.
Tell me, how long ago now since you stepped in with your dad's illness?
It's been 6 years.
6 years. Wow. So looking back from where you sit now, what are some of the biggest realizations perhaps you've had about business and the trades since coming into the business?
I think a big thing for me was making sure I was available 24/7 for everyone back then. And I just wanted to answer everyone's questions all the time. If somebody wanted to call me, I wanted to answer that phone. If there was an email at 9 p.m., I wanted to email them back, So a big thing for me was learning to take a step back, but still be available. So if there was an email at 9 p.m., like, go, okay, cool, I've got that email, but I won't reply till 7:30 tomorrow, because nothing's going to change overnight. So it was like, setting up a voicemail or just sending people like, oh, I'm actually having a day off, I can't get to you, but I will at another time. So it was just being able to not overwhelm myself with the work all the time. And because of that pressure and the load I had, I just felt like I had to perform all the time. So looking back, I'm like, oh, you don't have to answer every phone call. You can go on a holiday. You can take a day off, you know. That's probably one of my biggest things that I'd tell myself again.
Yeah, nice. Can you tell a bunch of other tradies as well?
Yeah, listen, the biggest one for me was I went on a snow trip one weekend, and I remember sitting on a ski lift checking my emails, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to enjoy myself, but I'm so wound up in making sure I'm getting on top of every email. And through COVID, I think was a big thing as well. You realize that the world doesn't revolve around working. And a lot of people took that time to take a step back and go, I'm actually can't reply right now. So I think it's adjusted the way that I react to everything.
I'm looking at Nick so I don't talk over the top of her, and Nick's looking at me. So I'm just going to jump in because I did. So what's been some of the positives out of this? Because, I've just been through some personal challenges, as I mentioned, and all of our listeners would have been, we all experience hardship and challenge and some of us trauma in our lives. Obviously, it seems to have been hugely positive for you in terms of your growth as a businesswoman, as an individual. Are there any other spin-offs from this that you can see that have been positives out of this situation?
Yeah, I think that the confidence it's given me within myself is something I would never have gotten if I hadn't been thrown into this situation. I had to learn on my feet very quickly and adapt to a lot of situations. And I think that if I wasn't put in this, I would just still be doing my thing as a Sparky and potentially not have had that personal growth. So that's the biggest thing. And then on top of it is the networking and the opportunities that I've had that come with it, running the Instagram page that I do. And then also just meeting other like-minded people is something I don't think I would have got to do as well.
I mean, can we take a bit of a step back to your apprenticeship? And we were talking off air about some media recently, some, as usual, negative media around the trades. But in this case, we're talking about bullying specifically. There was a particular incident they were referring to at the time. I know that you've become a bit of a lighthouse and a safe space for lots of other women in trades as they make their way through their apprenticeship. And I'm interested to hear your feedback on what you hear around bullying in and around the trades.
Yeah, it's a really hard one because there is that old school mentality of like, you've got to be tough to be in the trade, and there's still some people that treat you like that on site. So it's unfortunate that I still hear stories of it happening with males and females within the trade. I do think the narrative is changing the more the generation grow out and the new generation come through, because they're starting to realize you don't need to have that mentality. But yeah, it's still happening, and there is a few people that step away from the trade because of the way they've been treated, and I don't think that that's fair.
No, I totally agree. It's really hard to know where to take that information and to be brave enough to be able to put your hand up and say, hey, this isn't okay. And our listeners know I have a 20-year-old who's an apprentice carpenter. He's been really fortunate and not been put in a situation where he doesn't feel safe. But we've spent a lot of time talking to him and trying to build his confidence so that he could put his hand up and say, actually, I'm not going to do that task because it just isn't safe, regardless of what that might look like on the day or the pressure he might feel or the bullying he might encounter. Again, he's been really blessed to be at a great company and has not experienced that yet. Often what I've seen, though, isn't necessarily the company that you're involved in. It's other trades on site that can be part of the problem, or the general public. I've seen it where, snide comments are made to apprentices when they're in the supplier, or even just general public at the service station or something similar. I've seen and heard quite a bit of it over the time. When the people that are reaching out to you for a bit of support do reach out to you, where do you direct them? Is it something you just talk through with them, or do you have a go-to that you can direct them to?
Yeah, it depends on the person that reaches out. So I have a lot of women talk to me about, I guess it is still a very tough industry, and there's still, a lot of jokes and stuff that probably don't fly, but still happen. So it's trying to work out the balance of like, how far can I handle this, I guess. And it's just trying to find that balance of like trying to fit into the male industry, but also feeling a little like potentially offended. So I just talk to them about my experience. And then for some of them, I recommend them to some of our tradie lady networks, especially if they're women. And we have like private Facebook groups where you can post up something that's happened to you. And then people can give you reassurance or ideas on how to run through it. So depending on the person that reaches out and the situation, changes where I do send them or what kind of feedback I give them.
Yep, love it.
Nick's looking at me. That means I'm supposed to ask a question.
Yes, you are. Trying to leave you plenty of space.
Tammy, how about the clients and customers of the business? Obviously, well, I guess it stands to reason that you would seek support and almost expect it from the team within the business as you transitioned into this role, and I presume grow the business as well. But what about customers? Like, has your customer mix changed, or has it had an impact on your customer base?
It's been interesting because my dad definitely built an incredible company and has an amazing reputation. So they were big shoes to fill. But because my dad had so much respect in the business, me coming in and being a part of the family, I already kind of had a little level of respect that was really good. And I didn't have to kind of start fresh with them. Like, I could explain what was going on, and people had the confidence within my dad. So they had a little bit of confidence in me already, which was really nice. But yeah, we've taken on a few different jobs, and I've been able to build networking through different avenues that my dad might not have taken, whether that be social media and stuff like that, because it was not how he got work back then. Being able to bring new things in but retain old, lose some, it's like everything that happens in business. But I've just tried to take my little niche and bring that into the business as well.
I like it. So what's on the, I guess, future plans for not just the business, but for you? Obviously, it's a different pathway to what you imagined at 17, get your trade and travel the world.
Yeah.
What's the future look like for you now?
Yeah, I obviously have a passion for travel. So it's trying to find a balance between how much I put in here and how much I can go and do my own thing. So it's just trying to find that balance of being able to do that. I've been to Spain, and I'm going to Canada and Japan. So I'm definitely getting my travel in. And it's just being able to maintain those two things that bring me joy, I guess. So still build the business to where it's, really capable for having me not available every day, which I think is really important anyway. And then also enjoying things outside of work and finding that work-life balance, and continuing to enjoy that.
I know at least, I don't know, hundreds of tradies that need to be as wise as you are, Tammy. It's very incredible to meet a young person who understands how important that balance is and that time out for yourself, as well as the development of the business that you have. How did you get so wise at such a young age?
I don't know if it's wise or if it's learning from watching what happens if you don't, and the fear of it happening to you. That is probably one of my biggest things, is seeing what happens if you don't put those things in place, and seeing how it can impact your life long term and also impact the people around you. So it's just being really aware of not wanting to end up like that. Not that I'm not very good at doing the work-life balancing, but it's something I strive for, So I know that's how I want to live, and I also know the way I don't want to live. So it's just finding the balance between both of those.
I think you're doing a stellar job. We work with lots of clients that have not had holidays in 10 or 20 years. It's incredible. And yet that's what we're all in business for, is that bit of flexibility and that time out where we can. So I think it's fantastic that you're doing what you're doing. I wasn't aware that you had an Instagram page. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because I feel like that's a great area of support for all young tradies, not just female tradies. Can you tell us a bit about what that has looked like for you?
Yeah, so I run Sparky Boss, which is an Instagram account that's got 16,500 followers on it at the moment. And I started the page to network with other trades women and just share my story of being in the industry. But as the page has grown, I've had the opportunity to obviously start impacting younger women or men getting into the industry, along with just talking about tools and tradie and business things as well. But yeah, I really love having the younger generation reach out to me through that page and either say, you're inspiring me, how do I do it? Or, I'm having trouble, what can I do? And being that support network through that Instagram.
That's fantastic. Has it opened other doors for you that perhaps wouldn't have been open otherwise?
Yeah, I've had really cool opportunities to work with brands and, collaborations and do some travel as well. We recently just went to Cambodia and built a house through Habitat for Humanity, and that was all built through Instagram from people I met. So a bunch of tradies went over and built a house in Cambodia. So it's definitely opened up really cool things outside of this business as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And is that something you'd like to continue to grow, that opportunity to influence the younger generation as they make their way through? And if it is, have you thought about what that might look like for you moving forward?
Yeah, it's definitely something I actually really enjoy now. It was intimidating at first, like people asking me for advice when I'm sometimes like, oh gosh, I don't even know what I'm doing. So how do I give them the best advice? But through time, I've been speaking at schools and I've had the opportunity to go out and speak in the community to the younger generation. So if I can continue to do that, I really, really enjoy doing that, whether that be locally, or I did one in Queensland where I went up and spoke to a couple of schools with Trade Up Co. And just building that network and helping bring students and kids into the trade and not be scared of it or think it's not for them. So yeah.
That's awesome. I see a lot of the negativity around trades, around the apprentice attitudes, and so much of it is unfortunately, I think it's just human nature. You can look anywhere in humanity and in society and see, people mistreating other people, and it's really shit. And I try not to think about it too much because I get really sad and cynical and feel a bit beaten down about it. But it's always fantastic to see people like yourself, Tammy, who are I don't know, I get the sense that you're not out there sort of almost fighting against that stuff by confronting it head on. It's more about just bringing positivity to an area and letting that do the work. And I know that's my perception of how you're going about things, but I really appreciate and value people like yourself who just do your thing. You're playing your own game, you're running your own race, and in doing that, you're actually influencing others. It's, I see some people who are out there really quite angrily attacking some of these narratives, and I don't think that generally works very well, because it just makes everybody angry. Whereas, I get the sense from you with your Instagram page and everything you're doing within your business is really just being a very positive person and doing cool stuff and letting that do the work for you. Do you see others doing similar stuff to you, or taking that approach? If I've actually got that right or not?
Yeah.
And what do you think about in terms of making change for other people out there listening to this episode?
Yeah, I think I haven't thought about it like that, but now that you say it, it's pretty spot on. I definitely don't run in and start telling everyone bad stuff or having a go at the people that are having a go, because it's not going to get us anywhere. I more or less, like you said, just do our thing and run a business that I'm happy with, run a place that I'm happy with, that everyone feels comfortable and supported, and whether that be online or here. I think it's just going to be the best way of doing it, because there's mentalities in the industry that aren't going to change. It's just waiting for them to weed out, like not in a bad way, but grow out of it. And bring in a younger generation or a new kind of person that's thinking about it in a more positive light, and helping bring other people in that have a good experience in the trade. Because I feel like if you have a bad experience but you push through your apprenticeship, you might just be one of those tradies that doesn't like other apprentices because of your experience. So if you can bring a positive networking for your apprentices, they might become really good tradies and want to continue that positive behavior through their own businesses or through your business, rather than fighting it head on.
You said it way better than I did, Tammy. For me, and that is to focus on the positive behaviors. I mean, we I guess a lot of us know that works with our kids, with our pets, maybe with our team members, with our staff. But if we reward those positive behaviors and pay attention to those, generally we give them energy and we give them growth, and we can kind of starve out the negativity. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you for rewording what I said.
Tammy, I'd love to know, you are now our token young person for today, and I'd really love your opinion on what a supportive workplace looks like for an apprentice as they come through. So thinking about your experience, but then your broader experience with the people that reach out to you for support, what does a supportive workplace look like?
I think it's giving the apprentices the comfortability to ask questions, tell somebody they're not comfortable or they've made a mistake. I think some of the biggest things I see is apprentices are scared to speak up, and that's when accidents happen. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it because I have to do it, and something will happen, but they're too scared to say, I don't know what I'm doing, because they're scared of getting told off. So it's building a level of confidence within your apprentice that they can speak up, and also just giving them the encouragement to continually speak up and ask if they're okay, you know. So instead of them just going home every day going, I've made a mistake, oh my gosh, and their confidence dropping, it's just going, hey, you know, you did a good job, maybe do it this way, or have you made a mistake, or has something gone wrong? Because you can tell pretty quickly when people aren't comfortable. You know, when I'm training somebody or talking to them, you can tell pretty quickly when you say, you know what you're doing, and they just kind of go, yeah. And I'm like, no, you have no idea what you're doing. Like, talk to me, you know, like, let's go through it again and actually make sure you're confident before you take on this task. It gives them the confidence and gives you confidence in their work. So I think that that's really important for apprentices, not to just be the one that's picking up the broom or cleaning up the rubbish or just doing the hard yards. Yes, you have to do it as well, but give them the opportunity to have confidence and be comfortable.
It's an excellent point, and something I think most tradespeople, if they think back to their apprenticeships, the time where they were in trouble for not doing the right thing, or they found themselves making a mistake and being too frightened to take to someone, as you pointed out, that's a horrible feeling. And I think that sits with you long, long after you finish up your day at work. So checking in with them is so super important. It doesn't take much to reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? To ensure that they're right. And as you rightly point out, if we're taking enough time as the person training the apprentice, we can definitely see when they're feeling uncomfortable. It is not hard to see if there's that real look on their face. I don't know what I'm doing and I'm feeling really frightened. Somebody needs to help me, but we're not brave. It's really hard to be brave and confident to put your hand up because we're frightened of what may happen. So I guess I would suggest that people just remember what it was like for them when they were an apprentice. Gosh, when I first started working with Warwick, I was terrified all the time that I'd stuff up. This is really a big lie.
Because I'm an angry middle-aged white man.
You're a tyrant. I can relate it back to going on site for the first half a dozen times. I was just absolutely terrified of being in the wrong space at the wrong time and annoying someone and what that might feel like. And I was a confident middle-aged woman. So I can only begin to imagine what typically a kid, from my point of view, would feel like when they're walking on site for the first time. It's terrifying.
I don't think we, as in people, society, doesn't matter. I don't think we appreciate how prevalent that fear is about being found out in any area of our life. You know, I'm a new parent again at a fairly late age for many people, and I'm tripping over all of these feelings again. You know, I'm 50, and it's like most people my age, I think they've all got their shit together and know everything, and I'm feeling like a fraud because I don't know how to help my baby boy not cry and scream. You know, it's like, holy crap. And I don't want anyone to know that, although I just shared it with, you know, thousands of people on a podcast. But please don't report me to child services or anything. But when I go mountain bike riding, even if I go with a new bunch of people, I look at them and I think, wow, they look like really good riders. And I feel anxious and I feel uncomfortable and I become really self-conscious and I make more mistakes because I'm so focused on that and the embarrassment of being less than somebody else that I don't just do my thing and do it well. And I think, you know, for 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, you know, entering the trades with all the stuff we've just talked about with you, Tammy, to not have the benefit of, well, your incredible wisdom at your age, and, you know, I've accumulated mine over many more years, it would be an absolute nightmare. No wonder we're struggling to attract apprentices to the trades. Who would want to subject themselves to that awful psychological barrage just from ourselves? And that's without having some shithead treat you like rubbish on site. So I don't think the problem is that hard to solve. I just think it actually requires people, as Coxie was saying, just cast your mind back to how you felt, whether it was as an apprentice or even even doing something new, where you felt like, you know, you joined a new sports team or you went to a networking meeting. I hate networking. It freaks me out. So I think you're an absolute legend, Tammy, to be out there doing networking in business, because it freaks me out. So I think we could all do a much better job of just being a bit more mindful of what it was like for us when we were doing those things.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
There you go. That's my lecture for today.
And should we remove the soapbox from under your feet, or would you like to step down graciously?
Well, I want to ask Tammy, a question. I'm fascinated to hear your answer to this one, Tammy. And that is, if you had 1,000 trade business owners in a room and you're on stage, don't freak out too much. What's one piece of advice you would love to leave all of those tradies with?
Be more vulnerable. I think that is one of the biggest
Nice.
things that I have learned over time is just have the vulnerability. Like, no, not everyone's perfect. Not everyone's business runs perfectly. We're all making mistakes. If we talk about that more, I think everyone's going to be more successful. You know, I have conversations with friends that have businesses, and then we start talking about things that you don't commonly talk about in business because it's, you know, secrets of the trade or, you know, secrets of my business. But it's not going to affect each other. You know, I think it's just helping each other learn, being vulnerable, asking for help, reaching out, I think is just so important. And I think everyone can benefit from it.
Very wise
that.
mind for a young lady. Your parents must be very proud of you, Tammy.
Yeah. Gosh, you're already a force to be reckoned with, but by the time you're as old as me, you'll be taking over the world, Tammy.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show today, Tammy. Thanks for putting up with one of our crappy internet. I suspect it's mine. It usually is. And wish you all the best for the future. I'm stoked. I have a 12-year-old daughter, so I'm sitting here chatting with you thinking, you know, this would be the sort of thing that I would wish for my daughter. Not the illness part, of course, but for her to get into a trade and get into a trade business and experience all the cool stuff that you've talked about. So thank you very much for inspiring our listeners. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me on and listening. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy.